Kale ran through the rocky clearing, clutching the dragon egg tightly in his small hands. It pulsed with a faint golden light, and he could feel warmth radiating from its smooth, fragile shell. He had found it deep in the ruins of an ancient nest, hidden beneath collapsed stones. The stories his village told about dragons filled him with awe, but he had never imagined standing before the Dragon Queen herself. Now, every step he took toward her lair felt heavy with both excitement and fear. The mountain air was sharp, carrying the scent of stone and distant pine. Kale's heart raced as he approached the massive cliffs where the Dragon Queen resided. Her name was whispered with reverence among the villagers. She was said to be enormous, ancient, and terrifyingly intelligent. No human had ever been allowed close, and many had fled at the mere sound of her roar. But Kale knew the egg could not survive alone, and somehow he believed that the queen might understand his intent. As he reached the wide entrance of her cave, Kale froze. There she was, her enormous form coiled atop a ridge. Her scales shimmered like molten silver, and her eyes glowed amber with an intelligence that seemed to pierce his very thoughts. Even from a distance, Kale could feel her presence as a force, not just of strength but of judgment. The Dragon Queen watched him, her head tilted, nostrils flaring, wings partially unfurled. She did not roar or move aggressively, yet every movement she made was calculated, deliberate. Kale took a deep breath, remembering the tales of bravery his father had told him. I found this egg," he stammered, holding it out with both hands. His fingers trembled slightly. "I want to keep it safe, please." The words sounded small in the vastness of the cave and the immense presence of the Dragon Queen, but he spoke with honesty and courage. The Dragon Queen's eyes narrowed, and she shifted her head, sending a low, rumbling vibration through the ground. Kale felt the tremor beneath his feet, but he did not flinch. He held the egg closer, instinctively shielding it with his small body. The amber gaze studied him for a long moment, and Kale sensed her mind probing, questioning, weighing his intent. Every instinct told him to run, but he remained still. Courage, he realized, was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. The queen let out a low, almost musical rumble. Kale understood it as a form of communication, though he could not decipher the exact meaning. Still, he responded in kind, whispering softly to the egg, letting it feel safe. The golden glow intensified slightly, as if responding to his calm presence. He realized that the egg itself was sensitive to emotion, sensing his care and fear, and that it might trust him before the Dragon Queen ever did. Kale stepped closer, careful to avoid sudden movements. The Dragon Queen observed every motion, her eyes following his hands, his posture, and even the rhythm of his breathing. It was a silent trial. She wanted to know if he was clever, patient, and steady, qualities far more important than strength. Kale took a deep breath, recalling the lessons his father had taught him about observation and intelligence. He crouched slightly, presenting himself as non-threatening, speaking in a calm tone. "I will protect it," he said. "I promise. I only want to help." The Dragon Queen's head tilted further, her wings shifting slightly to block sunlight. She exhaled a warm gust of air, a gentle warning or perhaps a test. Kale held his ground, letting the egg rest lightly against his chest. He did not flinch. Instead, he focused on steadying both his breathing and the egg's warmth. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on him, heavier than any stone he had ever carried. Hours seemed to pass as the Dragon Queen silently studied him. Occasionally she shifted, causing small stones to tumble down the cliffside. Kale stayed calm, observing her movements, noting patterns, and keeping the egg balanced carefully. He realized then that the trial was not just about courage, it was about intelligence, observation, and emotional steadiness. Every small gesture mattered, every second was measured, and the bond of trust hung by a thin thread. Finally, the queen lowered her head closer to Kale, her massive eyes scanning the egg and then the child. Kale's heart pounded, but he remained still. The amber gaze lingered on him, searching for any sign of dishonesty or fear that might betray his intent. But he had been honest and steady, and the egg seemed to pulse warmly in response, as though it too approved of the human before it. The Dragon Queen's rumble shifted to a softer, almost melodic vibration. It was a sound of acknowledgement, a signal that she had judged Kale's heart and found it true. He exhaled slowly, relief washing over him, but he did not move. He knew this was only the beginning. The Queen's trust had been earned, but it would have to be reinforced through careful care, patience, and courage. Kale looked up at her and whispered, "Thank you. I won't fail." The dragon's massive head dipped slightly in response, an unspoken promise of protection in return. For the first time, Kale felt that humans could stand before dragons not as prey or intruders, but as allies capable of empathy, intelligence, and courage. The egg nestled safely against his chest, glowing brighter as if sensing that a new partnership had begun. As Kale stepped back slightly to give her space, he realized that the future was uncertain, yet full of possibility. The Dragon Queen had recognized his courage and intelligence, and in return he had begun a legacy that could reshape the relationship between humans and dragons. The child and the dragon were at the start of something far greater than either could have imagined, a bond of trust and respect that would echo for generations. And in that quiet, golden dawn, with the egg cradled carefully in his arms and the Dragon Queen watching silently, Kale knew that his choice to stand bravely before her had changed everything. The morning sun glinted off the Dragon Queen's silver scales as Kale stood nervously on the rocky ledge, the dragon egg cradled carefully in his arms. He had been allowed to stay near her, but only for observation. The Queen's amber eyes followed every motion, unblinking, evaluating. Kale felt the weight of her gaze, heavy and intelligent, measuring his intent. Every action mattered. Every movement could be seen as honesty or deception. "You carry it carefully," the Dragon Queen's rumble vibrated through the ground. It was not spoken in words humans used, but Kale felt it in his chest, a demand and a test all at once. He nodded slowly, keeping the egg close. "I will protect it," he whispered. His voice was small but steady. He understood that the Queen was testing more than strength. She sought intelligence, courage, and patience. The Queen moved closer, each step causing small tremors across the stone floor. Kale crouched slightly, making himself smaller and less threatening. He could feel the heat from her massive body, the sharp scent of scales and smoke, but he did not flinch. The Dragon Queen extended one talon carefully, gesturing toward the egg. It was an unspoken challenge. "Show me that you understand care or risk failure." Kale studied her carefully. He realized that the Queen's challenge was not just about holding the egg, it was about observing, reasoning, and acting wisely. He noticed a small crack forming at the tip of the egg, delicate but real. He understood that any sudden movement could worsen it. Slowly he adjusted his hands, supporting the fragile shell while keeping his body relaxed. The Queen's eyes narrowed, amber light flickering as if she acknowledged the careful response. "Think," Kale murmured to himself, aware that panic could ruin everything. The Queen's tests were subtle, not violent but intelligent, probing. She watched how he reacted to danger, uncertainty, and decision-making. Kale realized that every choice he made mattered more than speed or force. It was patience, clarity, and respect that would determine her judgment. A gust of wind swept through the cliffside, rattling loose stones. The egg shifted slightly in his arms and Kale adjusted, keeping calm. The Queen observed, talons resting lightly on the ledge, wings half-furled. Kale knew she was testing his composure under pressure. If he panicked, the egg might break and he would fail. But by staying calm, he demonstrated intelligence, patience, and courage, qualities that mattered more than physical strength. "Do not fear me," the Queen rumbled, voice vibrating through the rock. Kale tilted his head slightly, speaking softly, "I am not afraid. I only want to protect this life." The Dragon Queen paused, considering. She tested further. With a gentle flick of her tail, she dislodged a small stone from the ledge. It rolled toward Kale's feet, threatening to knock him off balance. Kale acted quickly but carefully, holding the egg higher, letting the stone pass harmlessly beneath him. The Queen's amber eyes glimmered, acknowledging the human's quick thinking and precise action. He understood that intelligence and foresight mattered more than strength. Human ingenuity could solve problems that raw power alone could not. The Queen's test had been passed, but the trial was ongoing. Next, the Queen shifted, sending a warm blast of air from her nostrils. Kale felt it push against him, challenging his stability. He braced himself, steadying his feet, hands firm on the egg, breathing slowly. The egg glowed faintly as if sensing his calmness. He spoke softly to it, whispering encouragement. The Queen observed the connection, noting that the human could inspire calm and trust, even in fragile life. Hours passed as Kale continued the trial, responding to challenges without fear or haste. The Queen tested his patience by shifting position repeatedly, forcing Kale to adjust, balance, and remain vigilant. Each time he succeeded, the Queen's eyes softened slightly, though her gaze remained intelligent and discerning. She was teaching, observing, and evaluating simultaneously. At one point, the Queen lowered her head to the egg, breathing lightly. Kale froze, waiting for any sign of aggression. Instead, she nudged the egg gently with her snout, testing its strength and the human's response. Kale instinctively steadied it, holding it with care. The queen's subtle movement was a test of observation. Would he overreact, remain calm, or panic? Kale's steady hands and quiet voice answered the challenge. Ilara, who had been watching from a safe distance, whispered, "Father, he's testing you." Kale nodded slightly, recognizing that this trial was more than physical. It was an evaluation of mind, heart, and intent. Every thoughtful action, every calm breath, every careful adjustment of the egg demonstrated qualities the queen respected. She valued intelligence, patience, and courage more than strength. By late afternoon, the dragon queen circled above Kale slowly, wings creating a soft, rhythmic gust. She tested his focus, observing how he maintained attention to the egg despite the movement of a being so enormous. Kale remained steady, speaking softly to the egg, keeping it calm and secure. His actions showed wisdom beyond his years, the kind of human ingenuity and empathy that could influence even ancient beings. Finally, the queen landed near him, folding her massive wings with grace. She lowered her head close to Kale, amber eyes searching, measuring, acknowledging. The rumble she emitted softened, almost musical. Kale felt relief, but he did not relax fully. He knew trust was fragile. The trial had been passed, but the relationship had just begun. The dragon queen nudged the egg gently, then looked at Kale. It was a silent message of acknowledgement, showing that she had judged his heart and intentions true. Kale whispered, "I will not fail. I will protect it." The queen's massive head dipped slightly, a subtle sign of respect. It was the first step toward a bond that would shape not just the child's future, but the future of humans and dragons alike. Kale stood quietly, the egg glowing warmly against his chest. He realized that through patience, intelligence, and courage, humans could earn respect even from the most powerful creatures. The trial had proven it. The dragon queen, for all her size, strength, and ancient wisdom, had recognized a small human's heart, and it had changed the balance of trust. The day ended with Kale still standing before her, the egg safe in his hands. The dragon queen's gaze lingered, thoughtful and calculating, yet acknowledging. For the first time, Kale understood that human intelligence and empathy could create bonds stronger than fear, and that courage was not just in bravery, but in wisdom and care. A new chapter had begun, and the trial had proven that humans could stand as equals in the eyes of dragons. Kale sat quietly on the edge of the cliff, the dragon egg resting gently in his lap. The morning sun shimmered over the mountains, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape. The egg pulsed faintly with golden light, as though it were breathing along with him. Kale's heart pounded with anticipation. He had passed the Dragon Queen's trial of intentions, but the true challenge was just beginning. The life within the egg was fragile, and every movement, every thought, could influence it. The Dragon Queen hovered nearby, her massive wings folded gracefully, amber eyes focused on the child and the egg. She had watched Kale with careful scrutiny, observing his patience, intelligence, and courage. Now she seemed to sense the connection forming between human and dragon egg. Kale felt the queen's presence as a weight in the air, not threatening but powerful, an ancient intelligence testing every heartbeat and breath. A faint crack appeared along the surface of the egg. Kale's eyes widened. He held it more carefully, adjusting his hands to support the fragile shell. The egg pulsed in response, glowing slightly brighter. He whispered softly, "It's okay, you're safe. I'll protect you." The warmth from his words seemed to flow through his hands into the egg. The Dragon Queen lowered her head, watching the interaction closely, as if evaluating Kale's ability to respond under pressure. The crack deepened slowly and Kale felt a tremor run through the egg. He held it steady, careful not to apply too much pressure, but aware that too little could cause it to fall. The queen's eyes narrowed, amber light flickering as she observed his every action. Kale realized that this was another test, though unspoken. It was a trial of intelligence, focus, and care. The egg's life depended on his awareness and calm. Minutes stretched as the egg began to tremble more violently. Golden light spilled from the growing crack, brightening Kale's small hands. The egg rocked slightly and Kale shifted, steadying it while keeping his body relaxed. He felt sweat on his brow but did not panic. Calmness, he knew, was the only way to help the life inside thrive. The Dragon Queen's rumble vibrated through the ground, a deep, resonant sound. Kale understood it as encouragement, acknowledgement that he was acting correctly. Suddenly the egg shivered violently, and a piece of shell fell away. Kale held it carefully, eyes wide with amazement and concern. A small, wet snout emerged, glimmering with golden scales. Tiny claws scrabbled against the remaining shell. Kale's breath caught in his throat. The Dragon Queen leaned closer, nostrils flaring, observing every detail of the hatching process. Kale whispered softly, "It's okay, you're safe now." His voice was steady, calm, and full of care. The dragonling inside pushed against the shell, small wings flapping as it struggled to free itself. Kale adjusted his grip, providing support without pressure, allowing it to move at its own pace. The golden glow of the dragonling pulsed in time with his heartbeat. He felt a deep connection forming, one that transcended species beyond words, based purely on trust and care. The queen shifted, her massive wings creating a gentle gust of wind. Kale maintained balance, holding the dragonling safely. He noticed subtle signs, the tiny creature's eyes opening, small breaths, the twitch of a tail. Each movement required him to adjust carefully, responding with intelligence and empathy. The dragon queen's gaze never wavered, watching how the human handled the life of one of her kind. Finally, the dragonling broke free, trembling but alive. Kale held it close, letting its small body rest against his chest. Its scales glimmered faintly in the sunlight, a golden shimmer like liquid fire. Kale whispered soothingly, "You're safe, you're okay now." The dragonling nuzzled him gently, a sign of trust and recognition. The dragon queen exhaled softly, a low rumble that Kale sensed more than heard. It was approval, acknowledgement that the child had succeeded in caring for the life of a dragon. Kale looked up at her, eyes meeting hers. The queen's amber gaze was intense but approving. She circled slowly above, wings extended, creating a shadow that danced over Kale and the dragonling. Kale understood that this was more than observation, it was recognition. He had proven intelligence, patience, and courage. He had passed the trial of intentions, and now he had nurtured life from within a fragile egg. The dragonling chirped softly, flapping tiny wings. Kale adjusted his hands, letting it feel secure. The egg's shell, now mostly gone, lay broken at his feet. He realized how delicate life could be, and how much responsibility came with trust. The dragon queen's presence reminded him that this was just the beginning, the first moment in a relationship that would shape both human and dragon understanding. Hours passed as Kale continued to care for the dragonling. He spoke softly, encouraged movement, and ensured the small creature's comfort. The queen hovered nearby, observing with a calm intensity, occasionally nudging the dragonling with a gust of her breath to test its reactions. Kale responded with careful guidance, balancing instinct with intelligence. Every choice he made reinforced the trust forming between human and dragon. As evening approached, the golden glow of the dragonling dimmed to a soft shimmer. It rested in Kale's arms, breathing steadily, safe and warm. The dragon queen descended slightly, lowering her head close to the child. Her rumble was soft, melodic, filled with a subtle approval. Kale felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had nurtured life, met the queen's unspoken challenge, and survived the test not by strength, but by care, patience, and intelligence. Kale whispered to the dragonling, "You're safe, and together we'll learn and grow." The queen's amber eyes lingered on the child, acknowledging the courage and wisdom shown. Humans, she seemed to say without words, were capable of understanding and empathy, even in matters as delicate as dragon life. Kale understood then that his actions had created more than survival. They had created respect, trust, and the beginnings of a bond that could change the world. As the twin moons rose over the mountains, Kale held the dragonling close, the queen watching silently but approvingly. He realized that this moment, life nurtured by care, intelligence, and patience, was the start of something far greater. Humans could earn trust, respect, and recognition from dragons, not by force, but through empathy, intelligence, and courage. The egg had awakened, and so had the possibility of a new era. Kale sat on the rocky ledge, the small dragon nestled safely in his arms. The golden light from its scales shimmered softly under the rising sun. The dragon queen hovered nearby, wings partially extended, creating a wide shadow that danced across the cliffside. Her amber eyes studied the child and the dragonling with intensity. Every breath, every subtle movement seemed to be analyzed, measured. Kale felt the weight of her gaze pressing down, but he stayed calm, determined not to show fear. The dragon queen rumbled deeply, a vibration Kale could feel through the stone beneath him. It was a sound that carried authority, intelligence, and the unspoken question, "What will you do next?" Kale understood that her decision would shape the future, not just of him and the dragonling but perhaps of humans and dragons everywhere. This was more than trust. It was judgment. Kale looked at the dragonling in his arms. Its small wings twitched as it adjusted, seeking comfort. He whispered gently, "It's okay. I won't let anything happen to you." The warmth in his voice seemed to flow into the creature, calming it. He realized the queen's test was not only about protecting the egg but about demonstrating wisdom, care, and intelligence under pressure. The queen wanted to see if he could act responsibly when the stakes were highest. The dragon queen shifted closer, her massive wings flaring, creating a soft gust of wind that rustled stones. Kale steadied himself, keeping both hands firmly but gently around the dragonling. He noticed her eyes, amber and unblinking, watching his every movement. This was the moment of truth. The queen would decide whether to allow him to continue caring for the dragonling or take it into her own keeping. Kale's heart pounded, but he held still. Courage, he knew, was not the absence of fear but control over it. A silence settled over the cliff, broken only by the dragonling's small breaths and the gentle rustle of wings. Kale realized the dragon queen's decision would depend on more than just physical care. She was evaluating his mind, his patience, and the connection he had formed with the young dragon. He adjusted his posture slightly, speaking softly to both the dragonling and the queen. "I only want to protect it, and help it grow strong." The queen circled slowly above him, wings outstretched, creating gusts that tested his balance. Kale maintained steady footing, keeping the dragonling safe. He used both instinct and reasoning, moving gently in response to her air currents. The queen's gaze followed every motion, noting intelligence and adaptability. She was teaching, testing, and judging at the same time. Finally, she landed a short distance away, folding her wings but keeping her body imposing. Amber eyes locked on Kale's, searching for signs of deceit, fear, or incompetence. Kale met her gaze steadily, showing calm confidence, and the dragonling nestled closer to him, sensing safety. The queen exhaled, a warm gust of air brushing over them, as if signaling her observation had reached its conclusion. Kale realized then that she was making her choice. Every careful action he had taken, every gentle word, every measured movement had been weighed against the scales of her judgment. He had not relied on strength, intimidation, or speed. He had relied on patience, empathy, and intelligence, the very qualities the queen valued. And now she would decide if humans could be trusted with life so precious. The dragon queen lowered her head to the dragonling, nostrils flaring as she inhaled softly. Kale held his breath, letting the moment stretch. She nudged the young dragon gently, testing its response. The dragonling chirped softly and nuzzled Kale's chest, showing that it recognized his care and accepted him. The queen's amber eyes flickered, a subtle sign of approval. Kale felt a spark of hope but did not celebrate yet. He waited for the full acknowledgement. Slowly, the queen extended one massive claw, lightly touching Kale's shoulder. The vibration of her movement was gentle but powerful. She leaned closer, her gaze unwavering. In that moment, Kale understood. Her decision had been made. She had chosen to recognize his intelligence, courage, and care. She would allow him to continue guiding and protecting the dragonling. The child had earned her trust and acknowledgement, not through power or force, but through patience, empathy, and intelligence. Kale exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. He looked down at the dragonling, which blinked up at him with golden eyes. "We'll do this together," he whispered. The dragon queen's rumble shifted to a soft, approving vibration, a sign that she acknowledged his promise and the bond he had forged. Kale felt the weight of responsibility settle comfortably, not as fear but as purpose. The queen circled once more, wings extended gracefully, creating gusts that carried a subtle message. Kale understood it. Humans, when wise and brave, could influence dragons not through threats but through trust and care. He had proven it. The dragon queen's decision was more than acknowledgement. It was a bridge between species, a recognition that courage and intelligence could form alliances even with beings far older and stronger. Hours passed as the queen observed from a distance, occasionally nudging the dragonling to test its reactions. Kale responded calmly each time, reinforcing the bond, teaching without force, guiding without command. The queen's presence was imposing but no longer threatening. Amber eyes followed them, noting every action, every choice, every gentle touch. She had given Kale a chance, and he had used it wisely. As evening approached, Kale held the dragonling against his chest, its scales glowing softly in the twilight. The queen settled on a nearby ridge, watching, but no longer as a judge ready to strike. Her stance conveyed respect, acknowledgement, and approval. Kale understood the gravity of her choice. He had not only protected life, but he had also earned recognition and trust from one of the oldest and wisest dragons in existence. Kale whispered to the dragonling, "This is just the beginning, together we'll learn, grow, and be strong." The queen's eyes lingered on them, amber light softening. In that moment, Kale knew that humans could make a difference, that intelligence, patience and empathy could earn respect even from the most ancient of beings. The queen's decision had changed everything, not just for him and the dragonling, but for the future of human-dragon relations. The stars began to appear over the mountains, casting a soft glow across the cliffside. Kale looked up at the queen and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect and acknowledgement. She inclined her massive head, her amber eyes gleaming with approval. He had passed her final trial, and the choice was clear. Care, intelligence and courage were qualities even dragons could recognize. In the quiet of the cliff, Kale felt the weight of responsibility and the promise of possibility. The dragon queen had made her decision, and the human child had proven that a small heart, guided by wisdom and courage, could influence even the oldest and strongest of dragons. The dragonling chirped softly, nestling closer as if sensing the importance of the moment. A new chapter had begun, and the bridge between human and dragon had been built, step by careful step. Kale stood on the cliff as the sun rose, holding the young dragon in his arms. Its golden scales glimmered in the morning light, warm and soft against his chest. The dragon queen rested nearby, watching silently, her massive wings folded but her presence immense. Kale felt a mixture of pride and responsibility. The queen had recognized his courage, intelligence and care, but the true journey was only beginning. The dragonling chirped softly and stretched its tiny wings. Kale adjusted his hold carefully, letting it feel safe and secure. He whispered, "We'll learn together. I'll help you grow strong." The creature nuzzled him, a sign of trust that filled Kale with wonder. He realized that this bond was rare, fragile and precious, built on patience, empathy and courage rather than force or fear. The dragon queen's amber eyes followed every movement. She had been the ultimate judge, the silent observer who decided whether humans could be worthy allies. Kale had proven that a human's heart and mind could influence even the oldest, wisest dragon. Her presence no longer felt threatening, it was protective and approving, as though she had accepted him as part of a new story. Kale looked out over the mountains, imagining what lay ahead. The dragonling was still small but growing, and he would need to care for it, teach it and understand it. Humans and dragons had lived in separate worlds for centuries, wary of one another. Yet here on this rocky cliff, a bridge had been built. Kale understood that his actions were more than care for a single life. They were the start of a future where understanding, intelligence and empathy could connect species once thought incompatible. As the day warmed, Kale began exploring the cliffside with the dragonling, letting it flap its wings while keeping it safe. The creature stumbled at first, claws slipping on rocks, wings unsteady. Kale guided it patiently, offering support without forcing movement. He spoke softly, encouraging every small effort. The dragon queen observed, occasionally nudging the young dragon with a gentle gust to see how Kale would respond. Each time he acted with calm intelligence and steady hands, reinforcing the trust between them all. Kale soon realized that the dragonling was learning quickly, its wings growing stronger, movements more confident. He laughed quietly when it leapt and tumbled, tiny claws barely gripping the rocks. The queen rumbled softly, a sound that Kale had learned to interpret as approval. He understood then that the queen's recognition was not just for surviving the trial, but for nurturing life with wisdom and empathy. As evening fell, Kale built a small shelter against the cliff wall, ensuring the dragonling had a safe resting place. He gathered stones, moss and soft materials, carefully arranging them for comfort and protection. The queen watched from a distance, silent but attentive. Kale sensed her approval in the way she tilted her head and softened her gaze. He realized that humans could influence dragons not through might, but through care, intelligence and patience. Night arrived and the stars twinkled above the mountains. Kale sat beside the sleeping dragonling, watching it breathe gently. The glow from its scales cast a soft light across the rocks. The dragon queen settled nearby, her body immense but her presence calm. Kale felt a sense of peace, knowing that he had earned trust and respect. The future was uncertain, but for the first time humans and dragons shared hope. The next morning, Kale encouraged the dragonling to stretch its wings again. He guided its movements patiently, praising its efforts with soft words and gentle hands. Slowly, the creature began to glide short distances between rocks, gaining confidence. Kale cheered quietly, his heart swelling with pride. The queen observed, wings slightly extended, eyes bright with acknowledgement. The bond Kale had forged was growing stronger every day, built on patience, courage and intelligence. As days passed, Kale and the dragonling explored farther along the mountains, always mindful of safety. The young dragon learned quickly, responding to Kale's guidance with growing trust. The queen followed silently, observing the progress. Kale realized that humans could teach and learn from dragons, forming a partnership that respected intelligence, patience, and empathy. This was the essence of human potential, HFY made real. One afternoon, the dragonling managed a short, controlled flight, flapping wings and soaring briefly above the cliff. Kale's heart raced with exhilaration. He cheered softly, clapping his hands, and the queen's deep rumble vibrated through the air, a sound of approval and recognition. The child had nurtured life, earned trust, and helped the young dragon discover its strength. It was a victory of intelligence, courage, and care over fear and instinct alone. Kale held the dragonling as the sun began to set, golden light reflecting from its scales. He looked toward the queen and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect and gratitude. The queen inclined her massive head, acknowledging his actions and choices. Kale understood that this was more than a personal achievement, it was a bridge for humans and dragons, a new beginning where mutual respect and understanding could thrive. Night fell and Kale sat with the dragonling nestled safely against him. The stars shimmered above and the queen rested close, silent but present. Kale whispered softly, "This is only the start, together we can do anything." The dragonling chirped and nuzzled him, and the queen exhaled a soft, approving rumble. In that quiet moment, Kale understood the full meaning of his journey. Through patience, intelligence, courage, and care, humans could earn respect even from the most ancient and powerful creatures. A bond had been formed, trust had been earned, and a legacy of hope and understanding had begun. The cliffside was no longer just a place of trial, it was a place of growth, trust, and the beginning of a new era. And as Kale watched the dragonling's soft glow mingle with the last rays of the sun, he knew that their story was just beginning. Humans and dragons, once separate by fear and distance, now had a chance to shape a future together. The queen's decision had been made, life had been nurtured, and a new beginning had begun, one built on courage, intelligence, and the simple but powerful strength of a kind heart.